how to make your yoga practice truly potent. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to make your yoga practice truly powerful, no matter what style or technique or modality that you are practicing. I've been teaching yoga for about 15 years and practicing for longer than that. And I've always had this insatiable desire to know what yoga can truly be, in terms of enlightenment, in terms of making that accessible through the yoga practice. And I was never quite satisfied with yoga as a wellness technique or yoga as this sort of spiritual lifestyle practice, or even yoga as this way to regulate the nervous system and be more relaxed and mindful in life. I really wanted to know, what is the heart of this? What is the core of this? What can this be in terms of enlightenment, in terms of recognizing our true self and expressing that in the world? I'm going to talk about 3 qualities that I found to really potentize the yoga practice. And it doesn't matter so much what you're practicing. In fact, I would just say just practice whatever resonates. Maybe in other videos, we'll get into specifics of, more technique, more modalities. But for the answer to this question of how to make your yoga practice potent, in that it connects you to your true self, it connects you to your infinite potential, it connects you to the direct experience of God. Not going to matter what you are practicing, but how you are practicing. And when you change how you are practicing in these 3 ways, that is when your yoga practice is really going to transform. Your life is really going to transform. The first quality is conviction. Conviction, if I were to summarize it in something short and memorable, conviction is you begin at the end. You begin your practice at the end. And what is the end? The end is your enlightened self. It is your Buddha self. It is all the qualities you might admire about a more realized being. All of those qualities are already what you are. Unconditional love, wisdom, grace, the connection to that infinite one power. Nisargadatta talks about the word conviction, and he sometimes uses the word shraddha, faith. So the quality of faith is also important in conviction. It is this faithful certainty that what you seek is what you already are. What you seek is what you already are. The enlightened self you desire, the joyful, free self that you desire is already what you are. And when we put that at the beginning, when we begin at the end, when we put our enlightened self at the beginning, what we do is we really shift the whole energetic of our being. We shift our sense of openness, and we shift our sense of availability to instant recognition, to recognition of what is already here. The opposite of that, what we usually do, why conviction is important, is because most of us have this assumed sense of ourselves being small, limited, unworthy, perhaps, and that we sit down on our mat with that assumption, and then we're going to do something to get somewhere. We're going to do something from this identity of being small and limited to become non-small and limited. And it just doesn't work this way. And I think many of us have recognized this in various ways, where when there's that sense of personal small self striving, there isn't satisfaction at the end of that. There isn't true progress on the path of yoga. And even people can be practicing meditation or yoga for decades, and that light of the true self isn't really irradiating their form, irradiating their mind and their speech and their actions. And so this quality of conviction is for beginner and advanced seekers alike. You might be thinking, if you're a beginner, well, I don't really know what that is. I don't know what my true self or enlightened self feels like. It doesn't matter. You can begin with that context, and having that openness to that context, having that recognition that what you seek is what you already are, is already going to change the way you move. It's going to change your access to what you experience, what you recognize, and how you connect to your true self. So we also see this quality of conviction in Buddhism. In Tibetan Buddhism, there is a quality called Buddha pride, or sometimes called divine confidence. And so this is confidence in your divine identity, even prior to having any stable experience of that. You can develop this intrinsic divine confidence, and that is conviction. Number 2 is devotion. And devotion is a word we hear a lot in the spiritual practice. It's also a word that gets a little bit of skepticism. It can seem a little weird to people. The word devotion can seem weird in a spiritual context to some, but it can seem admirable in, say, the context of an athlete pursuing and pouring their life force and their passion into their craft. But really, when we talk about devotion in the spiritual context, it's no different than that quality we admire in an athlete or a musician, where you just see them pouring themselves and coming alive through their craft. So in the spiritual practice, we need to figure out, why are we practicing this? This is the root of devotion. Why do you practice? Why do you practice? And this doesn't have to be a mental answer, but feel free to talk about it or write about it if you want. But this is about distilling, getting to that true essence of why, of your desire, your burning desire for truth, for freedom, for liberation, for unconditional love, for the end of suffering for all beings. So that's a question you have to answer for yourself, so you can find this quality of devotion. And most likely, if you're watching this video, you already have access to this. But what's most important is to recognize that devotion isn't just a spiritual path. And it is a spiritual path. We talk about the way, the path of bhakti, the way or path of devotion. But in addition to that, it is also the fuel, it is the quality that underlies all spiritual paths, all methodologies, all techniques, because our desire for truth is what illuminates truth. Our desire for a true self is what illuminates the true self. And I know for myself, I can get stuck in a sort of inertia. And we might not notice that we're not putting that fire in our hearts, that fire for truth in the forefront. We might think we're rolling out the mat every day, we're so dedicated, or we're meditating, or we're reading lots of spiritual books. But is that true flame of truth what is guiding you? Are you connected to that tapas, that burning desire for truth? So the illumination of your true self comes from your desire for that illumination. That is why devotion is important. It is the fuel of your spiritual path, no matter what you do. So no matter what practice you do. Number 3 is humility. Humility can also be misunderstood, and so I'd like to clarify it in this video. And humility is this quality I think we all are very moved when we see someone who is truly humble. There is this radiant innocence which emanates from them. So a common misunderstanding about humility is this assumption that humility means we are sort of small, we think lowly of ourselves, or we're self-diminishing. In some way, we are weak, passive, or floppy, and that is equated with humility. And that's a great place for our egos to hide these limiting beliefs about ourselves, is in this innocent guise of humility. But true humility is about openness. True humility is about openness to let a breeze blow through your thoughts, your opinions, your fixed, rigid beliefs about yourself and about the world and situations that you're in. In order to have this openness, we need to have quality number 1, that divine confidence, that conviction. We need to have divine confidence in who we truly are at our essence, because otherwise we cling to our opinions, our thoughts, our self-inflating beliefs, as well as our self-diminishing beliefs, as this method of self-protection. And it can become sort of an identity. And then we just shut ourselves off from our infinite potential, from our infinite divine identity. So true humility is on the basis of this confidence in our true selves, instead of confidence in our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and conclusions we draw about the world. When we cultivate true humility, when we approach our practice with true humility, we allow a grace, a doorway to open for intelligence to inform us. We allow a doorway to open for higher perspectives, for more harmonious perspectives, for ways of seeing that reflect our true, already enlightened self. There are many ways this can influence your yoga practice and your life for that matter, but one way you can bring this type of humility to your practice is from the very beginning, having a sense of what we often call beginner's mind. There's that freshness, there's that openness, and there's not an insistence that we already know the best way to practice and how to do this and how to do that. We have this space for this doorway to open for grace, for our thoughts and opinions and beliefs about ourselves and about others, and even about the yoga practice itself, to be suspended, to fall away for now, so that we can open to grace, we can open to true intelligence, power, and the radiance of our true selves. So a little recap. We have 1, conviction or divine confidence, 2, devotion, and 3, true humility. So as you next do your yoga practice, instead of spending much time or bandwidth on what to practice, instead see if you can focus on how to practice and either contemplate, reflect on these 3 qualities, think of some ways to incorporate them into your practice, or maybe just choose one that feels like it really has traction for you. And your yoga practice is going to start moving in the direction of being a true tool for your self-realization, a true support for the recognition of your true self, the direct recognition of God and expression of God through your being.